Mr. Lopez. Thank you so much for meeting me today. Today we'll be going over your observation. This is a post-conference. Now your observation was on July 21st, and today is July 24th. So we have a 3-day period because we only have 10 days for you to agree and sign the paperwork. Okay. So first I'm going to begin by going over the domains. Now, if there's something you don't agree with, we can talk about it. But first, let me start going over them. So in the first one, which is planning, for standards and alignment, you got distinguished. For data and assessment, distinguished. For knowledge of students, distinguished. And activities, you got accomplished. Very, very good. I'm so proud of you. Now for instruction, achieving expectations, you got accomplished. For content, knowledge, and expertise, you got distinguished. For communication, distinguished. Differentiation, accomplished. Monitor and adjust, accomplished. And now for learning environment, for classroom environment, routines and procedures, you got distinguished. For managing student behavior, distinguished. For classroom culture, you got distinguished. Now, after hearing my ratings on you, what would you rate yourself? How do you think you did in the lesson?
I think on a scale from 1 to 10, I think my lesson maybe was a strong 7 or 8. I feel like there's still areas of growth, of course, because we're not all perfect. And I think for the activities, for the accomplished rating, I do agree. I am following the scope and sequence from our district, but however, I don't. Sometimes with the math lessons, I think they're not rigorous enough for STAR. So I'm constantly creating word problems and activities that align really well with STAR, as well as using the Lead Forward assessment tool that we use to get previously tested TEKS and prepare our students for the rigor of STAR. So I do agree with the accomplished rating.
Now, I do know that you're coming from the other district, which they have a different math curriculum. Do you feel like you're using that content that you learned in your previous district and applying it here?
Yes, because at my previous district, we had a math consultant, and they would prepare the curriculum very well for us, and they would organize our days by notes, guided, independent, extra activity, and central activity. So I feel like we do need to fortify and strengthen our math curriculum, especially because we don't have a math book this year.
Okay, I'm very happy that you're able to use those activities that you've learned previously and use them for our scholars. I enjoyed seeing your students collaborate. It is very evident that you have those classroom expectations very high for your students. Now, I am going to be going over some domains and some evidence. I'm going to be going over 2, which one of them is the standards and the alignment, and the other one would be your activities, which I know you said that you feel like you could work a little bit harder to master that skill. Now, for this standards and alignment, you did get distinguished. You were following the TEKS, which we had said, which was dividing fractions, either in a whole number divided by a unit fraction or a unit fraction divided by a whole number using models, right? You did an introduction, you did direct instruction, you did a guided practice, you did the independent practice, you did stations, which the students really, really liked. I felt like in the stations, students really knew what to do. They weren't lost, which that just shows that you're constantly doing this and you're not putting on a show just because I'm going. How often do you do stations?
I like to do stations or centers twice a week because of time and because we're self-contained here and I have 3 tested areas. I do like to incorporate my stations twice a week, one for reading and one for math, continuously without any interruptions. I do, like, immediately from the beginning of the lesson, like, there's no lesson that day because it's like a continuation of what we've been learning. So I like to do it on Thursdays where it's just full centers, so that way they can practice the content by themselves. However, from Monday to Wednesday, I do my small group intervention. So I bring in my tier 2, tier 3 group, and I have them rotating while the rest are just purely working on independent practices.
Yes, it was evident to see that they really knew what they were doing. I never saw a student being off task or getting distracted, because I know in our pre-conference you had mentioned that students tend to get rowdy. But I was very, very proud of them, because I know stations is something fun for them to do. You know, it's easy for them to go and get a little bit distracted, but they did amazing. And now for your closure, I really liked how the students were able to utilize dividing fractions in the real world, because you know that is something very, very important. And plus, they were able to use their critical writing skills. It was evident to see that you planned with your, like, you knew exactly what you had to teach. You know your students very, very well. You know which ones are your low, which ones are your high, which ones are your mediums, which ones you need to really focus on. And yeah, for that, I am very, very proud of you. Now we're going to be going to the activities, which I knew you had a little bit of concern. For this one, we did do accomplished. You started the class by stating the objective, the I can statement, which is very good. I like how your students repeated it and everything. It seemed like everything was on task. Now for your activity, it was based on centers. We have spoken about that in the pre-conference. You had told me that Station 1. Students in Station 1 will continue to work on a handout in a small group setting with the teacher. In station number 2, students will continue working on their fast focus assignment, pages 1 through 4. And then on station 3, students will work on IXL math. And on station 4, students in this station will work on a group activity to continue practicing the skill. Now, something that I think that you could do to maybe improve this and make it a little bit more rigorous for them is having students work on more word problems for an even deeper STAR preparation, because you know at the end of the day we're working for STAR. We want our students to improve. Now, what would you say? Do you agree? Have you been doing this and maybe you didn't do it in this lesson?
In this lesson, yes, I did have my high group work on STAR rigorous problems. I did give them, maybe you didn't see, but I did give them both activities, and I did tell them that they're STAR geared word problems and that they're formatted differently. Like, one is with the bullet points, because that's sometimes how they throw it in for them. And then another ones were just solely word problems, how a word problem normally is. And I told them that they need to make sure that they pay attention to both format, so that way they're prepared, and that the bullet point format is easier for them to understand, because it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. However, I did want everybody to go, and I do agree with you, I do want everybody to do them. And as when you left, that's when we continued our centers, and I got another group to work on them, but I do want to start implementing them throughout the week, not just on center, so that way everybody's able to utilize them.
You're able to understand that, because I mean, it's great that you're doing it just once a week, but I would really appreciate if you focus on that a little bit more, just to prepare the kiddos for STAR.
Perfect.
Thank you. Now we're going to be going over your reinforcement, which this highlights positive aspects of a teacher practice. Now I think your communication is amazing. Through your caring communication, you are able to engage all types of learners into your lesson. You truly have a gift to be able to have your students follow your lesson, which is amazing. Teaching is a science, but it's also an art. You have proven in the short time that you've been with me in this campus, you have mastered the art of teaching to enable even the most struggling students to grow. And it all starts with communication. You communicate so well, not only with students, but with parents. I've heard so many parents come into my office and tell me how they're so proud of their child because you're their teacher and they've seen all this improvement. And I know this is your first year with us here at our campus. But it seems like you've been here for forever. You get along with all the staff. Whenever I'm facing a problem, I know I could always talk to you. You're very tech savvy. You could just do anything. You're a man of all traits.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to be talking about your refinement. This is something that you might need improvement. Is there something that you might think you're lacking, or you might need some assistance that I could help you with?
I think with like in the area of differentiation,
Okay.
not in teaching wise, but goal setting wise, because I
Okay.
know that we implemented our visible learning initiative, which means that the students are able to describe and identify how well they were engaged throughout the lesson. And that is a super good aspect in like our cell component of our district and of the student learning. However, I do think that I would want for them to, be more goal oriented. And I know that we do
Yes.
have our data folders, but I want them to even more goal data driven, because I feel that sometimes they think that we're just doing this for STAR since they've been doing it since third grade. But no, like I want them to actually and I don't know if in my lesson if you saw how I was preparing them for 6th grade, 7th grade by changing the
Yes.
vocabulary words that we use, because it's not just a flip, it's like a reciprocal, and I want them to actually be more goal oriented, and that way they can look into the future. And I'm anticipating for their success, of course.
Yes, of course. And I'm sure you know, but research has shown that when students know what they're working for, they're motivated, they want to
Mhm.
accomplish it. So I agree with you. I also think your refinement area would be a differentiation. You do an excellent job in working with our special ed students who are struggling students in co-teaching and resource, and you know their academic and SEL needs. But having set goals for each student where the student actually knows and is aware of exactly what they need to do in order to show growth. It could be maybe on iReady or benchmarks or anything, just for them to have a goal and for you to be constantly checking, not just in their iReady diagnostics, because that's only 3 times a year, but maybe in their checkpoints that are done every
and
6
a weekly
weeks.
progress monitoring.
Exactly.
Yes, of course.
For maybe they could have a folder and they could keep track, and I think it's a very beautiful thing whenever you see your students grow, and for them to actually see it that they're growing, that keeps them motivated. And I know 5th grade is a hard grade level. They might think they're too cool for school, but I think keeping them motivated does all the difference in the world.
Yes, perfect. And I definitely do agree with everything. And do you need anything else from me?
No, I'm very, very proud of you.
Would this be already reflecting on my T-test, on my DMAC portfolio?
Yes, it will.
After we sign, right?
Yes,
Okay,
we'll
perfect.
sign. We will be missing the last component, which is based on student growth. Now we haven't done our last end of the year iReady diagnostic, so it won't be finalized until we have that graph from Iris, which will probably be in the next couple of months. But once that is uploaded, and we will meet once again at the end of the year to upload the graph and talk about your student growth, we'll upload it and you will be set to go. But are you in agreement of everything?
Yes, I do agree with everything.
Perfect.
Do you need me to sign?
Yes, you will be signing right here. I'm going to sign first, and then you could sign. I'm so very proud of you, Mr. Lopez, and I cannot wait to see all your students will accomplish.
Thank you so much.